Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, welcome to the Flippin' Show. What's happening? So I am a little under the weather today, fighting off what they call a cold in the US. Not a big deal. Giving my immune system some exercise. Making it stronger. That's kind of how I look at it. I look at it as my immune system is fighting something off, as opposed to I'm getting sick or I am sick. It's like, well, I get to pick my reality. So I like the idea of my immune system fighting something off. I'm going in a direction that I want to be going in, but I'm also not denying the experiences that I'm having here. That's the combination that I like. We have to believe what we're telling ourselves. So it can't be a lie. It can't be in denial of reality, but it can be shaped towards where we want to go as opposed to something that we don't particularly enjoy. So, welcome. That has nothing to do with our podcast today. But it does explain why I might be sucking on a cough drop every once in a while. Or the entire time. We'll see. So, let me drop this down just a little. There we go. So yeah, today, I've said all work is inside work about 100,000 times, give or take 3. So it's extremely important. And I think it's becoming more important because, I keep seeing this spiritual shift that's happening globally transform our spiritual teachings. And what I'm seeing now is that a lot of spiritual people, and I include religious people in that, because, if to me, religion is a pathway to God if it's used correctly. So people can use religion to enhance their spirituality. Some people don't. Some people just go straight into the spirituality without the dogma, whatever your preference is, whatever works better for you. But I think spirituality is a relationship with our Creator. However it resonates with you to develop and enhance that relationship, so be it. So along those same lines is I feel that a lot of the spiritual people, including religious people, have been very judgmental up until this point. And you see it in religion, and I think religion's been around for thousands of years. So a lot of times the way that you see it in that is kind of like a self-righteousness, I'm saved because I do this, but you're bad and you're going to hell. It's like, well, that's not your judgment, So that's kind of just because you believe that you understand the mind of God and how God makes decisions doesn't mean that you do. I think that's the piece that religious people don't keep in mind. It's like they're like, well, God said this, and then you did that, so therefore I know God is going to condemn you. It's like, well, no, you don't, because you're just taking one little slice of something that God said. God said a whole bunch of other things that implies that we are all loved, and blah blah blah. I'm not going to get into it. But it's like the same people that say they don't they can't possibly understand the mind of God are the ones that are running around judging other people for not living in alignment with God, like they know. Anyway, I'm going to get off that train, because I think religion can serve a really good purpose, and I don't want to bash it. It's when it's used properly, it can be a great asset. So, talking about all work is inside work. Like I was doing this deep meditation. When was it? I usually put the dates at the June 10th, before I went on my vacation. What I was getting was the internal is the eternal. Okay. So what's inside of me, connects to the eternal, connects to God, connects to the eternal, connects to the truth that always has been, always will be. So that's my internal. The external is temporal. It's always changing. Can't be dependent on, per se, because we never know what's going to happen next. And if you notice, like when we're too obsessed or concerned with the external, we live in worry, frustration, and fear. Why? Well, because the external is temporal. It's temporary, and it's always changing. So how can we feel safe when we never know what's going to happen next, or if we're going to be okay? Like, we can't. So we live in worry, frustration, and fear when we're living from the external. And the other obvious part of it is, most people, a lot of them, when they come to me or seek help elsewhere, or just human beings in general, the general consensus, okay, is that we live from the outside in. So that the general consensus in the entire globe is that if things were the way we wanted them on the outside, then we would be happy on the inside. This is why people spend all their time and energy trying to straighten out the outside, because they think if they make enough money, then they'll be happy and peaceful. If they're in the right relationship, then they'll feel loved. If they're living in the right place, then they won't be stressed out. If they have the right job, then they'll be at peace. And of course, we want to lean externally. We want to lean in the direction of things that are right for us in the external world, and go towards those things that we enjoy, sure, but they're not going to make us happy. They're not going to make us feel loved. They're not going to make us feel safe, because they can't, because they're ever changing. People talk about stable jobs all the time. Like, what's a stable job? I mean, now there are jobs that are theoretically more stable than others, but there is no such thing as a stable job. But people really think they're going to find stability in a job and safety. And it's an illusion, because you don't know what's going to happen. COVID proved that with a lot of people. they had stable careers, and then all of a sudden their job was gone, and they're like, wait a minute, that was stable. I had somebody talking to me about, looking for stability in their life, and they were like, oh, I think I need to get a more stable job like I had before. And it was such a good example, because they said, like, right, I'm reading the energy when I'm working. So when they said that, a light bulb just went off, and I was like, wait, what did you just say? Uh, you want a job that's stable like the one you had before? And they're like, yes. And I said, okay, well, how come you don't have that job anymore? Oh, well, this happened and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so then it wasn't real stable, was it? If your job was actually stable before, wouldn't you still have it? Isn't that the whole point of stability? There's no fluctuation and change. Like, so people want a stable job that they no longer have, like the one they no longer have. It's like, well, wait a minute. Isn't that the opposite of stable? I mean, of course, you can choose to leave a job and stuff like that, but that wasn't the case in this conversation. So I'm going to look at my other notes from that meditation. So what I'm talking about here is when I let the external pull me into its world, the dream of the planet, the dream where there is all the worry, fear, frustration, non-safety, all this stuff. When I allow the external world to pull me out into that world and I fall asleep and dream of that instead of focusing on my internal, well, then I'm not being me. Like, my authentic self comes from within. So if I'm trying to be authentic and I'm trying to be myself, then I cannot be worried, fearful, and filled with frustration, because that's not authentically who and what I am. And another way to basically phrase that same thing is that we are all expressions of God. We are God animated. We are God breathing life force energy into us, making us move and do things and experience the universe in a unique way. So we are basically God animated. So God is not worried. God's not filled with frustration. God is not fearful. So if I am being those things, I am separating myself from God. I'm separating myself from who and what I truly am. I am love. I am peace. I am abundance. I am joy. I am contentment. That's what I am, because that's what God is. God doesn't have a pile of fear and frustration and worry to make you out of. Like, you can't make I've said this a lot, you can't make a wooden table if you don't have wood. Well, God doesn't have fear and worry and frustration. So he doesn't make you out of that, because he doesn't have it. We must be ourselves. We must be authentic. We must be love. So this is a very foundational principle, when we wake up spiritually. So this was the other piece I was going to touch on. I knew there was something. When people wake up spiritually, very often there's this thing that I call spiritual snobbery that comes. Right. And it's not because we're bad people. It's because when you wake up to the truth and you start seeing things as they are, it's as obvious as the nose on your face. It's like, oh my God, like, it's right there. How could I possibly have not seen this before? Right. And it makes so much sense. And it's so clear. And then what happens is we start looking at life like that, because how could we possibly look at life any other way? It's absurd. It makes no sense. Well, what we do is instead of just anchoring into that, most people have a version of judging others for not seeing what they're seeing. And they forget that 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago or 2 years ago, we were all in that same position, or 30 years ago. We were all in that position. We were all running around in the dark, bumping into things, not living the life that we want to because of the conditioning that we've been passed down, and this dream of the planet that we fall asleep in. And it's like, and we know something's off and we want to change it, but we don't know what, and we can't see how, and we're just not ready, or we're not getting it, or, who knows, and we're suffering. And sometimes we're even reaching out for help, and then the people there to help us, and we just can't get it for some reason. I remember when I was trying to get sober, that there was this one period where I got sober for, I don't know, 60 or 90 days or something. And I was up in Rhode Island at the time. And it was my first real shot at getting sober in AA. I had gone, had I gone to meetings before? I don't know. Anyway, it was my first real shot at, I had gone to a few court-ordered meetings, but nothing where I was open. So this was the first time, and I was really trying to understand what they were saying, and I was really trying to lean in and embrace this and give it a honest try. And I just couldn't get it. I was showing up to meetings every day. I was doing what they were telling me to do. I was hanging around with sober people. I wasn't drinking, but I just couldn't get it, And then what do? I go, usually it's relationships or work. Those are two main areas of our lives. And in AA, they talk about that being the two things that can draw us out of our sobriety. So I got a job working ridiculous hours. It was like 16 hours a day sometimes, and eventually I drank, and I was trying, so I thought, but I was so lost and brain fried and everything else that I just couldn't make sense of anything. I couldn't really get it, and I ended up drinking. And then, I ended up back down in Florida, and I tried again 2 other times. I did a little bit better those next 2 times, but I relapsed. So then I saw the pattern forming of relapse, and I was like, oh no, I'm not living like this for the next 5 years. My deal is I get sober or it's over. And so I need to buckle down and either do this or don't. So then I finally went through the steps, found somebody to take me through the steps, and that's when everything changed, and I had all my spiritual awakenings. But my point is, it was the first thing that I experienced when I woke up. And bear with me, people, I get a sneeze coming. So the first thing I experienced that was not pleasurable when I woke up was people coming to me. Now, my sponsor had told me when I finished the steps, he said, you are supposed to give back freely what was so freely given to you. So I took you through the steps. So that means you got to take other people through the steps. And I'm, you don't feel ready at that time. So I'm like, yeah, but am I ready? And he's like, if you have been through the steps and you've had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, then you have experienced something that other people that haven't gone through the steps haven't experienced. So therefore, you have something that they don't. So yes, you are ready, and you can offer this. And it was as simple. And back then, I just did what I was told. So I start working with people, and I was taking one person through the steps. Excuse me one second. Sorry about that. That was bugging me, man. So I was taking somebody through steps, but there was also a lot of people coming to me asking me questions. What happened to you, Glenn? How do I get it? What happened? And I would tell them to the best of my ability about surrendering, letting go, stuff like this. And now in hindsight, it was kind of ethereal, right? But I was just trying to express what I had experienced to the best of my ability at that time. And I didn't really have any words yet. So, once they end up, I'm telling them this stuff and then they're out drinking again, or I'm going to their funeral. It's like, why aren't they getting it? And I remember sitting down on my bed and falling backwards and going, I was frustrated. And I'm like, why aren't these people listening? Like, I'm telling them exactly what to do. Why don't they just do it? And I heard this voice say, like, well, it wasn't too long ago that you weren't doing it. How come you weren't doing it? And I thought back, a few months earlier, because it wasn't that long. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe because I'm just not ready. That was the only thing I could come up with. And it's like, yeah, was there a shortage of people trying to help you? It's like, no, there was people trying to help me. Well, how come you weren't doing it? I don't know. Maybe I just couldn't hear them. I couldn't internalize what they were saying. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't ready. And it's like, okay, so maybe they're not ready. And then I heard, how should people have treated you back then when you weren't getting it? Should they have treated you judgmentally? Should they have yelled at you and put you down and called you an idiot and just kicked you off to the curb and all these things because you just weren't ready for some reason? I'm like, no, that doesn't sound like it'd be very fair. It's like, okay, then maybe you shouldn't do that to them. Not that I was doing that, but I was probably heading in that direction, So I was like, okay, so that was like the first kind of insight that I got after I woke up. So, people become very judgmental when they wake up spiritually. A lot of times, not always. I mean, if you blow open enough, you blow right past that. Like, spiritual awakenings happen on different levels. Like mine was huge, and just that little experience was enough to give me clarity and prevent me from doing it. It like, boom. So I kind of sailed right past that. Now I did circle back to it later on in my sobriety, my spiritual life. I have gone through periods where I've gotten judgmental with other people. And big surprise, it's when I'm off, right? When I'm not where I need to be, because all work is inside work. So if I'm off, then all of a sudden my thoughts become off, and then all of a sudden my behaviors come off, right? This is what we're discussing today. So, but there's usually a period of this judgmentalism that we go through. And, it's partially that because we forget where we came from. And then the other part is that we're so sure that we're standing in love that we're right. The best way to feed the ego is to be right. So this is why it's kind of a catch-22. When you're standing in love and you're going, no, I'm loving, I want all good things. This is really good. Those are wonderful thoughts, but if you use them to feed the ego, then it's egoic. And we need to learn to separate those two. Love is inclusive. Love is not exclusive. So we can't say, we have to get rid of this person because I want to the jail system is kind of hard for people to wrap their brain around because they see them as adults. But like if you use a child, sometimes it's a little easier to see. It's like, we take these children. Actually, I just saw a movie about this the other day, where this kid grew up in a foster system, and it was, really bad. Like they were having the kids fight each other and stuff like this, and it was really bad. So I don't believe it's a true story, but it warped this kid really bad, right? So my point is like in our society, we think when there's a kid that's bullying another kid, we just have to throw away the bully, and then we'll live in a peaceful society. It's like, well, we don't have an actual trash barrel. So like, where do you think that bully went? We didn't deal with the bully. We didn't deal with why he was bullying. We didn't deal with the actual cause of the problem, the root cause of the problem. We didn't deal with it, so we didn't get rid of it. What we did is we just pushed them out to the outside of society, and then we think, we did the right thing, and now all of a sudden this other kid's not getting bullied, so we're geniuses and we fixed everything. It's like, well, no, because that kid that you just threw in the trash barrel, he's in the trash barrel with a bunch of other trash barrels, kids that are in the trash barrel, and they're teaching each other how to live in the trash and to be better criminals and to experience and live off of more anger, more frustration, more overwhelm. And then guess what? You can't keep them locked up forever. So they get back into society. And then they do more problems, and we're like, oh my God, what's wrong with the world? Well, what's wrong with the world is we don't fix problems. Not inside. We fix them outside. Oh, if I can't see you, out of sight, out of mind. He's bad. Get rid of him. La, la, la. I am not looking at Glenn. La, 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 la. Okay, well, Glenn's going to come back. And he's probably going to cause some big problems, But I digress. We're so judgmental about people's behavior, and we're feeding this. And it's part of society now. When somebody gets caught on camera, because everybody has a phone now, when somebody gets on camera, gets caught on camera doing something that we don't like, they go viral. Because it just feeds our ego. I'm not them. Look, there's the bad person. I'm a good person. You're judging them. You're bashing them. You're character assassinating them for one act. You don't know them. You don't know their entire life. You've never made a mistake. Like, this is what we're doing. We're trashing everybody outside of us. We're pissed off at the government. We're pissed off at world leaders. We're pissed off at the elite. We're pissed off at the younger generation. We're pissed off at so many things. And that's where our attention is going. And this is why love isn't growing. Because this is where our attention is going to what we dislike and all this stuff. And where does love come out of that? Oh, but I'm not like that. No, you're feeding the problem with your disgust and with your words and with your posts. You're feeding it. So let's look at the teachings that have come through for thousands and thousands of years. I said the internal is the eternal. So there's eternal truths that have always existed and always will. So let's look at some of these. We'll start with Jesus. The kingdom of God is within you, within, not without, within. First, clean the inside of the cup and dish, and then the outside also will be clean. Clean the inside. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So where your heart is, and we think if we're in love, like we're thinking what we perceive as loving thoughts, we're working from our heart, not if anger is coming out of your mouth. If you're paying attention to what comes out of your mouth, and you can hear, sometimes I do it, sometimes I get frustrated, right? But if you hear frustration coming out of your mouth, then that's frustration. So I guess, I don't think that I'm perfect, and I still have work to do. And so, like, when I see myself doing that, I'm like, okay, Glenn, that you need to work on that. Because if frustration and anger is coming out of my mouth, then I have frustration and anger in my heart. It's not love. Now, it might be because I want things to be loving, and what I'm looking at doesn't seem loving, and that frustrates me. And then what comes out is frustration. That often is the case, right? However, that means I have more work to do on myself. It's not an excuse. See, I think that's the main point here with what I'm talking about, at least right now, is that's a piece that people don't get. Like, I don't live perfectly. I don't do everything perfectly, but I don't make excuses for what I do. And because of that, I don't rationalize it. And because of that, I get a little bit better and a little bit better, where I'm seeing other people get stuck sometimes. It's because we rationalize our behavior. We go, well, of course I'm frustrated. That's a load of crap, and it shouldn't be happening. Of course I'm frustrated. And we rationalize our frustration. Like, we have to be frustrated. Like, our frustration is the appropriate action and response. Now, sometimes it is appropriate to be frustrated initially, but that's not where the solution lies. There's no solution in frustration. And people think that there is. Like, I'm going to go fight for freedom. Good luck. We've been doing that for, 100,000 years. It hasn't worked yet. I don't know why people think it's going to start magically working. Have we ever experienced world peace? No. Oh, okay. Well, then maybe fighting for peace doesn't work. Maybe we can't fight to not fight. So if we're speaking frustration, it's because we're frustrated. It's not love. We've let go of the love and dropped into frustration. So don't excuse your frustration because you're standing on the soapbox of love. You can't excuse your frustration. It's not just because you're standing on a soapbox of love does not mean the anger and the hatred and the frustration spewing out of your mouth is now not anger and hatred and frustration. Now it's love magically. No, it's if you feel angry, then anger is coming out of you. It's inside of you and it's coming out. It's not, but it's because I'm a good person. It's because I love. No, love, that's not a quality of love. Love is patient, love is kind. It has all these qualities to it. It never says love is frustration, love is anger, love is hatred. It doesn't say that because it's not. It's an opposite energy. Let's keep going. What comes out of a person is what defiles them. Blessed are the pure in heart. We have to purify our own heart. Then we will be blessed. Buddhism. Whatever a monk keeps pursuing with his thinking and pondering, that becomes the inclination of his awareness. See, if we're constantly thinking about what we hate and dislike and fear and worry about, then that is going to become the inclination of my awareness. That's the world in which I'm going to live in. Though one may conquer 1,000 men in battle, the one who conquers himself is the greatest victor. All work is inside work. We must keep turning within, work on ourselves. Don't worry about what's going on out there. Work on ourselves. Once there are enough people vibrating at love, society is going to start vibrating at love. Taoism. Master yourself and you master the world. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty. Confucius. The strength of a nation derives from the integrity of the home. The strength of a nation derives from the integrity of the home. Now, you can do this microcosm and macrocosm, which you could probably do that with a lot of these things, but I just saw that. The strength of, I'll do the microcosm, the strength of me, the who I am as a person, that can be my nation. So the strength of me as a person derives from the integrity of the home. My heart is my home. That's my center. Right? So if my heart is in alignment, is in integrity, then my strength is derived. My body, all my strength comes from that. And then you can use it in a macrocosm. If what I just said before I read that, if we each, don't worry about what's going on outside, if we each strengthen our hearts and we come from a place of integrity within ourselves, love, true love, not masked as frustration and anger and hatred, that if we are integrated, if we have integrity with our own hearts and we are living in love within ourselves, then the nation is going to derive its strength from that. Our society is going to derive its strength from that. This is what Gandhi was saying: be the change you wish to see in the world. Be the change you wish to see. You be it. Society is made up of people. If you are love and I am love, then and somebody else becomes love and somebody else becomes love, then all of a sudden we're going to live in a loving society. The superior man seeks within himself. The inferior man seeks in others. The superior man seeks within himself. The inferior man seeks in others. To govern yourself is the beginning of the governing well. First, we must take care of ourselves, then we can govern well. Can you imagine if our, not to put our fate in the hands of other people, because we can't do that, but can you imagine if our politicians actually govern their own behavior and their own hearts and their own integrity? Well, then they'd make choices that supported its people, but they don't. They rationalize their behavior. But we just start with ourselves. Don't worry about them. That was all Confucius. So now Hinduism. One who has conquered the mind is peaceful. As a person thinks, so they become. We have to work on ourselves. If we're thinking, we rationalize what goes on inside of us so much, and we don't think it's serious. And usually I come at this from another door. Like, usually when people can't accomplish something in their life, like start going to the gym or get a new job or whatever, usually it's because they break promises to themselves. They say, I'm going to do something, and then they don't do it. And they pretend that they didn't just lie to themselves. They pretend that they're not disrespecting themselves. And they are. If you say you're going to do something and you make a commitment to yourself and then you break that commitment, that is a lie. That is disrespectful. It is. And you suffer because of that. We can't, I just changed my mind. No, you didn't. You're not in control of your own behavior. I got into this with the personal responsibility podcast. Like, we have to start understanding that we are responsible for our own actions and stop, rationalizing our behaviors. Oh, I tried, but I just can't. I tried meditating, but I just can't seem to be consistent with it. Like, what? You can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I went through periods. I understand all this stuff, but I'm saying it in a particular way to point out the obvious, not to judge you. You've gone through 12 years of school. Some of you have gone through 4 more years of college. You've started a career. Some have families. You've bought cars, houses. You've raised children. You've done all these things, but you can't sit on your ass for 10 minutes every day. That's just beyond your capability. We rationalize things. We just say, well, I can't. What do you mean you can't? This is why we're so used to rationalizing our behaviors that we just say, yeah, I tried. I just can't do that. And we actually think that that's reality. We're like, people say that to me and they're like, yeah, I tried, but just for some reason, I just can't do it. It's like, well, make yourself. Like, who's in control of what happens in your day? Like, you wake up in the morning and you can't even figure out how to sit still for 10 minutes. And people use other things to rationalize their behavior. Well, I don't meditate well. I can't stop my mind. You don't have to stop your mind to meditate. Maybe take a little, if meditation is going to benefit you, maybe you should do a little research and find out what meditation actually is. Instead of judging yourself for not doing something so you can just not do it. Let's keep going. So this is a Hindu philosophy. You are what your deep driving desire is. As your desire is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. As your deed is, so is your destiny. This is why we have to pay attention to what's going on inside of us internally, because deep, that overrides our free will. It overrides our intellect. This is why it says, as your desire is, so is your will. So this is why, like, addicts can't stop using out of sheer willpower, because deep down on an unconscious level, they want to use. You can't use willpower against something you want to do. Your willpower, intellectually, they want to get sober. Intellectually, they want to stop. But that deep down inside, they want their drug. And deep down inside is going to override the intellect every time. This is why our willpower doesn't work in a lot of things, because we're used to living up here surfacely. Oh, I want love in my life. And deep down here in our heart, we don't feel like we're deserving of love, or we don't feel that healthy relationships exist or something like this. And that's like a deep-seated belief. That's going to override our intellect every time. That's why we can't use our willpower for something that we have an objection to deep down inside. Rumi, I actually love this quote. I've heard this one before. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. This is what I'm talking about. Intellectually, we think we got to go change the world. Oh, look at all the problems out here. Look at all the problems. We're addicted to that external. Look at. Yeah, let go of all that. Pay attention inside. Worry about that. Worry about you. It's the only thing you have control over is you. You know, I've said this many times too. Sometimes I think that the whole spiritual path is letting go what we can't control and stopping to try and control it, and begin controlling what we can control, which is ourselves. We spend all our time and all our attention and all our speech talking about the problems external and what's wrong out there and what needs to be different if we for us to be happy, and what everybody else is doing wrong, and blah, 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 out there. And you don't have any control over that. You can't change the world. You can't change other people. You can't change circumstances. Now, the people who actually do make a difference understand this, and they start with themselves first and then spill it out into the world. So you can see this in the people who have affected actual societal change, like Gandhi, like Martin Luther King Jr., like Nelson Mandela. They all worked inside first before they went outside. They did the work on themselves before they did the work on the outside. Gandhi had to stop fighting back before he affected any change. Right? This is such an important thing, man. We have examples of this throughout human history, and I've said them over and over, but they bear repeating. Excuse me. So, let's keep moving on. Okay, Islam. Indeed, Allah does not look at your appearance or your wealth, but he looks at your hearts and your deeds. Inside. There is a piece of flesh in the body. If it is sound, the whole body is sound. It is the heart. If our heart is sound, are you at peace? Are you contented? Are you living in love? Like, just you living in love. Like, so that means as you walk through your day, are you experiencing love inside of your heart on a regular basis? Are your words that are coming out of your mouth loving towards others? Now, again, I'm not perfect at any of this stuff either, but this we got to be clear on at least where we're attempting to get to so we can walk in the right direction. Are my words coming from love? If not, if even 50% of my energy, maybe even less than that, is coming from frustration, overwhelm, stress, anxiety, then there's more work that I need to do on myself. I don't need to worry about the outside world yet. First, I need to get myself straight. Once I'm able to live in a dysfunctional world and vibrate at love and speak out of love and come from a place of love, then I can possibly enact change in society. And only then. We cannot change society until we have changed. We're just not powerful enough. And we're not powerful enough individually to change society. The only way we can change society is if we, like how one person could change society, like Gandhi or MLK Jr. or Nelson Mandela and some other people. The only way we can actually enact positive change on society is if we're coming from almost pure love, because that's strong energy. And one person can make a difference in the world. But we have to be so anchored in that love. We can't be getting knocked around by frustration and anger all the time, because then we're just feeding frustration and anger, because that's what's coming out of us. So we think we're working towards a solution. We're not. We're just feeding more anger and frustration to the problem. So we really have to get ourselves straight before we are strong enough to stand in love in a dysfunctional circumstance and express loving energy, which will actually change things. This is what we're talking about, all in this. Sikhism: conquer your own mind and you conquer the world. Truth is high, but higher still is truthful living. Knowing the truth is really good. Living it is higher still. Stoicism: no man is free who is not master of himself. Marcus Aurelius: the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This is why Jesus was talking about if you're thinking the sin, you might as well already have done it. Because that's the energy you're in. If I'm sitting here going, oh, I want to hurt somebody. I want to shoot them. I want to hurt them. I want to do this. I want to do that. And we keep feeding that in our head. Eventually, we're probably going to do it. And even if we don't do it in a physical realm, let's say we have all these thoughts and we never act on it. It doesn't matter. We've just destroyed ourselves. Because we're feeding that. We're feeding that. We're feeding that. And our heart becomes hard and closed. We suffer when we think these things. You see, the punishment is built into the sin. We have to, once our heart is pure, then we're having pure thoughts. Once our heart is love, then we're having loving thoughts. This is what we need to work on. It does not mean that you are judged and you're going to hell every time you look at an attractive woman or have a bad thought about a person. Like that's not what it means. Understand what it means. It's go deeper. If our mind and our heart is filled with sin, then we might as well have sinned, because our heart and our mind is filled with it. And so it's what we are. Its energy fills our body. So we don't have to actually go do it to destroy ourselves. That just speeds up the process. So every major spiritual tradition teaches some version of this, right? It's all transformation coming from within. The heart or the inner self determines your actions. Inner peace creates outer peace. That's what we're getting to. So I think that's going to be it. So hopefully you guys got this. It's just all work is inside work. Work on yourself, work on yourself, work on yourself. And then after that, work on yourself. And when your attention gets pulled out and you start judging other people, work on yourself. Bring it back in. And I'm telling you, that's where the solution lies all the time. Because, let's say there's an external situation that really hurts your heart. Like, let's say one of your children is going through a really rough time, and your heart aches for them because you love them. Like, work on yourself, work on yourself, work on yourself. Not because you can necessarily change them. They're on their own path. What they have to go through is what they have to go through. You can support them in it, but you can't do it for them. So we don't know how it's going to play out. But what I do know is that the more work I do on myself, the better asset I am to my child or any loved one or any stranger. The more work I do on myself, the bigger asset I am to humanity. And it enhances my own personal experience. I'm not so hopeless and helpless and overwhelmed and stressed out because I'm at peace because I've done the work on myself. So my experience is better. I can handle difficulty better when I'm doing the work on myself. And because I'm working on myself, then I can help others better. So we got to disconnect from this judgment, from this constant being drawn out into the external, and just keep coming back within, coming back within, coming back within. Because as enough of us, if we do this, this is what's going to change the world. If standing on our soapboxes, pointing the finger at everybody who isn't living like us does not change anything. Has anybody ever come up to you ever and said, you're a complete moron, the way you live is stupid, the way you think is stupid, and you suck? Has anybody said that to you, and then right after you went, you know what? Thank you. That's really good insight. I think I'm going to change everything about myself because you just pointed that out. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And then they went and changed their lives? Of course not. Of course that's not going to happen. You get defensive. So this running, and we're all about raising awareness. We're in the information age. Is anybody not aware that like smoking causes cancer, or that there's corruption in the world, or any other problem you can come up with? I think we're pretty aware of most that there's a bunch of problems. So we don't need more awareness. What we need is more love. Let us be the change we wish to see. All right, that's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed, peeps. Be the love. Peace.